We have a very special edition of the Good Times Hour, and this is the Larry Leonard Memorial Edition. So, as you can see, we have at least five friends on board, and we're probably going to have two or three more to stop by. And tonight's all about remembering our friend Larry, and we're going to tell a bunch of stories, and we're going to get started right off the bat. And plus, we're just going to chat, because we're all good friends and we haven't seen each other in person for a while. But obviously, my sidekick, Mr. B, is here joining me, and we have Carlton Howard, Justin Jernigan, David Mansfield, Walter Snoop Haney, and Chris Heisel. And again, there'll be a few others coming along. But thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
Nice. For people out there who may not know, I know Larry was a legend in the North Carolina scene and maybe along the East Coast, but there's some people joining us from places that may not have heard him. Can we kind of do a roundtable and sum up who was Larry Leonard to you first and foremost? Why don't we start with Walt?
Personally, Larry was just a great friend. I mean, he very trustworthy, very humble guy. Saw him 3-4 times a week. Just an all around great dude. Disc golfer wise, early on, he was the guy you wanted to beat. He's the guy around here when it was his time. Carl, Stan, Larry, you wanted to beat Larry. So disc golfer wise, he was phenomenal. He wasn't the longest thrower. He wasn't the best at anything besides maybe putting. He's still up there, putting wise. But around here, he was the guy you looked to beat. Any of these guys on the panel will tell you, if Larry was there, Larry was probably going to win the tournament. And if not, he was going to be top three.
He's going to be in the hunt and the chase.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, you played a lot of tournaments with him in the early days, and you were there before he really came on the scene. What was your early impression of Larry? Was he always as silky smooth Larry as we'd known him to be?
Since I was playing before there were courses and before there were tournaments, I've seen a lot of players rise up and ascend to power, if you will. And so I was there, I helped him. I remember, Larry was just an infectious, he had the prototypical infectious personalities, like that younger sibling that you liked. He was effervescent in some ways, but obviously he was a heck of an athlete, so when he came on the scene, playing in rattle events, I remember we were having the rattle homecoming, had pig picking, so we had pork and potato salad, just trying to build community and have fun. So we had like an ace pool, a little basket we throw out and try to ace. And, drinking, having fun, just fellowship, no tournament involved. And so we're kind of putting out front. And Larry comes up and challenges me to a game of disc like a horse in basketball, but we're putting. And, I can putt pretty good. And I was kind of king then. So I've been drinking a little bit. So we're playing about halfway through it. I realized, damn, this kid can putt. He's serious. I was just, goofing around, even goofing around.
How old was he? Just for reference.
Putts, So about halfway through, I realized, damn, this kid's serious. He beat me in disc, that putting game, and I could tell it had been a lot to him, and I also could tell, this is he's going to be trouble.
So Mace was asking how old was he at the time?
Everybody on the screen I saw do that,
Okay.
So, it's it was to go from kind of a guy helping people play to being friends and being competitors, it's a very special feeling. And Larry was just a wonderful payback for playing Frisbee. I mean, it's the reason we all started playing. It's so dang fun to throw anything. Go back to rocks, pine cones, sticks, boomerangs, if you hadn't tried that. Baseball, yeah. But Frisbee, it actually flies in addition to the throw you put on it, right? And so now you can play that and compete at that, and then meet a guy like Larry, and like all you and everybody I met, all the women, hey, pretty amazing, just for fun. So Larry, it was pretty incredible. His first disc golf nickname, courtesy of Alan Beaver, was Little.
What was that? Say it again.
Little Larry. Little.
Oh, Lil.
Al.
Oh,
Al.
okay.
It's not Alan. It's Al. O-W. Al. Al. Al calls
Al
him
Beaver.
Little. So, yeah, Little
I'm
man.
trying to get him in here too.
Beeve is Beeve, you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a good question. Maybe I'll throw this out to the floor. Of all the nicknames that Larry had, Larry Leopard, Larry Legend, Little Larry, anyone's got a favorite that they called him something?
Peanut. Called him Peanut. He was called Peanut. Yeah,
How many
there
people
was a
could
few.
get away with that?
There was oh yeah, well, I mean, there was a few. You know, there's a few we can't say.
Killer LL was
Yeah.
going.
Well, this is an adult show. I mean, I don't think there's any teenagers.
All right,
in, so.
little bitch came up a lot. I mean, you know, just the way it was. Stop being a little bitch. You know, and
That area is really competitive, but really loving. So,
yeah,
it's,
He used that one himself, though, quite
Yeah,
handy.
he did.
yeah,
Yeah,
what kind of nickname? You know, I think I was nicknamed Dumpster Fungus for a while. So there's no telling what kind of nickname somebody will come up with.
Yeah, especially when you're not around.
But the one I always remember with Walt was I got to tell the Satchel Boys story. So there was
yeah.
this.
Tell the fabrication. Go ahead.
No, I've seen the article, Walt. Don't lie to me. So
You've also been a reporter, and you know that you report things wrong. But go ahead. Go ahead.
there was the Raleigh newspaper had done an article about Walt and Larry, you know, and how good they were in all these tournaments. And there was a picture of them throwing at Cedar Hills, and apparently, like Larry or Walt or somebody, you know, sarcastically was like, "Yeah, they call these bags satchels, and they call us the Satchel Boys." And the caption of the picture was like, there it is right there. It was like Larry and Walt, known as the Satchel Boys. So like every time there's a picture on Facebook of them, it's always like #Satchel Boys.
Nice.
And recently, obviously with my last name being Leonard, and I've said no relation a million times recently with this. Me and Walt played doubles recently, and our team name was Satchel Boys 2.0.
Nice.
That's
Sounds
awful,
like
Larry.
Walt was in that working under that name in protest.
You take the good with the bad, Mace. You just take the good with the bad, you know.
So then what's the story then, if I'm wrong?
So Larry, the story went, we had a lady interviewing us. We went up to the picnic table by the bathrooms. Carl got us hooked up with the NMO, local newspaper. And so Larry was saying that in the beginning, we would use camera bags to put our disc in or satchels. We would use satchels to put our disc in because they weren't bags at the time. And then she ran with the Satchel Boy story. So,
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, my first golf bags, I was recycling my mom's old purses. They get an old white leather purse. That was my 50 first golf bag.
I bet it was pain.
Yeah, but you
Master
gotta,
165 at 119, 40
I
miles.
was gonna say, you guys got to realize he was putting lids in that purse, not golf discs.
arrows.
Bigger narrows. Shoot. That's the thing that everybody talks about putting from the 70s, and I'm like, yeah, but they were sticking a lid in a Mach 1. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
talk about hard putting.
Yeah, when you see pictures of Mach 1s, because there's people who have no idea what even a Mach 3 is when you see the proportions of the Mach 1.
I got whatever's before the Mach 1 in my yard. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of Larry's strengths obviously were his consistency, his smoothness, his putting. One of the interesting stats that jumped out, he had a win on the pro to field MPO every year from 1991 to 2009. So conceivably, every one of the people here in this field lost to him at some point in that 19-year span. Who has the best? Or let's go around the table. Let's start with Manzi. Manzi, I know you and I were usually hanging out towards the bottom of the fields, but you always. Hey, come on now. As I recall, maybe you got a lot better since then.
How the hell else do you think we got to know you so well?
I know, right? Come on.
He was my role model.
He so
I have my
mean,
Well, me
moments.
too.
did
I'm
you
not
have
gonna lie.
any shining moments against Larry?
Actually, one of the best, my personal best against Larry was in a crosstown. We had back in the day we were playing Kentwood and Cedar Hills. Just that was what we had, right? So and then they got moved around, did Zebulon, whatever. So, but I shot actually with Larry the first round, and if I'm not mistaken, I shot a 14 under the first round. Larry shot a 13 under first round. I was just draining putts from everywhere, just having a great day. And Larry was not real pleased with his 13. Whatever, especially when he gets beat by me. He never like that. And it didn't happen much. And then after the second round, we both, I think we both shot 13, 14 again. Like we both tied. So going into the second day, I was one stroke, I think, ahead of him. And I have to look back at the history books to make sure of this. But I think I was one stroke ahead going into Cedar Hills. And then, of course, he ate my lunch at Cedar Hills. But I enjoyed being ahead of him, and he even commented after the round, the first round that we played together. He's like, "Dude, you were just putting your ass off today. That was amazing." So it was even when he got beat, he was pretty cool. Not that he got beat overall, but for the day or the round or whatever, he was still a pretty cool competitor in that way, right? When he saw somebody, and plus he kind of Carlton, Larry, some of the other guys that were around back in the day. They're kind of Chris said a minute ago, they're my mentors, right? These guys taught me how to play. So when I'm going out there and beating them on a day, that feels nice,
Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, Justin? Do you have any Larry Leonard tournament stories that you were just like you
Yeah,
ripped it up in front of him?
I have a couple. There was one that comes to mind, and Walt, you're part of this story, but we were playing a course in Burlington, North Carolina. It was a pro-am tournament, and Larry, Walt, and I were on the same card, and we were all just playing really well. This was maybe 04, 05, sometime around there. We're lighting the course up, and we get to there's a 20-hole course, and we get to hole 19. I think I was like one stroke behind both Larry and Walt, and I throw my shot up to hole 19. I'm parked, and Walt, I think, is maybe 20, 30 feet away. So I'm like, he's going to make that, and Larry's 50 feet away. I'm like, well, I'm going to catch Larry. Yeah, didn't happen. He bangs, dead center on hole 19 at the end of the tournament to bang that putt, and then we both birdie, and I lose to them both. But one of the best rounds I've ever shot in my life, and I lose to both Larry and Walt. I think they went to a playoff, and I believe Larry won that tournament. But you said how good of a putter he was. He used to tell me stories about how he would make people mad putting with his arrow, just how soft he would putt. If he missed, he didn't miss by far, and he would float it in there, and he didn't have a massive comebacker. People are like, how do you do that? But it was just amazing to watch him putt over and over and over again, how much touch he had. So
yeah,
Well,
was not a spin putter, just always a float putter.
yep.
Never even could spin move. Never even could spin it. Always floated. Finger out, float.
I remember he jumped out of the car. We were at Cedar Hills one time. He hadn't played it'd been maybe a year or two. And he's like, let's go out and throw. Let's play a little bit at Cedar Hills. And he said, JJ, he said, how much you want to bet? I'll make one from the parking lot on the practice basket. I said, you're not going to make that. And this is 70, 80 feet away. And he goes, so I'll bet you I'll make one. Makes it 70, 80 feet. He said, I'll bet you I'll make two. 70, 80 feet. I'll bet you I'll make 3, 70. And he's like, all right, I'm done. That's just how good the guy was and how much he did it repetitively and over and over and over again. A lot of the folks that play today just don't know what that's like and how good he was. So, yeah.
And he never owned a basket until he bought a house 4 years ago. He never owned a basket.
Wow.
So everybody here has a basket at their house. Larry didn't have a basket at his house. The first 30 years of his career, he was putting on courses. And then, so we go out just a couple of years ago at his house, just fiddle-farting around, and I'm still in the disc golf scene. I'm putting. I give them a stack of discs, Alan and Larry. JJ's right, lo and behold. Very first time Larry picks it up, 25 feet, cans the putt. Just a very natural putter. Just hand-eye coordination, just has done it a million times. Just made the putt.
He told me a story one time about how fast the disc had to hit the sweet spot in order for it to bounce off the disc that was in the tray and jump over the rim. And I go, "How did you figure that out?" And he goes, "I think I threw about 250 or 300 shots that way one afternoon." And I was just like, "It's like, are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm dead serious." And he goes, "Watch." And he showed me, and he knew the speed from wherever, like
Yeah.
10, 15, 20 feet, and he could sail it right in the heart, and it would come down and bounce on that other disc and a trampoline right over the rim. And I was like, well, like, at first I was like, why the hell would you even want to know that? But then it just really told me how dedicated he was. You know, I mean, like when I thought about it more as I walked away, I was just like, wow, I've never practiced compared to Larry. I've never practiced. You know, I mean,
Yeah. We would take our cameras out, and he was very adamant about me taking pictures, of his throw. How many players do you know throw like this up here? Watch Larry's throw. He's not coming across. He's coming here. People don't do that. But Larry somehow managed to do this throw from here and could make it go 325, 350, but put it anywhere he wanted. But he was very adamant about us taking pictures of every single angle. Before these guys are doing it now on video, we were taking still shots and going back watching them. Where his release was, not putting, he had that mastered, but his angles, he was trying to get his angles all the time. We got thousands of pictures, as everybody saw at the memorial, of him throwing.
Well, he had that skip, that little hop in his run up as well. Like there's only a couple of people that I know that have that, like almost like he was clicking his heels in the middle or something.
And not a lot of people know that he changed his throw. He broke his leg, and he had to actually change his throw and reinvent his entire run up and reinvent his entire throw. When was this, Walt? This was
94. Wow. Is what I remember.
It was right after he came back from playing his best worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He had done the Triple Crown with Carl in 93, maybe. Came back in 94, and he played Port Arthur. I don't think he played 95 because his leg was broken. I think that's right.
That's why.
So,
well, that's before we transition further. We've already brought up the dates. 94 is when that happened, but 93 he was coming off of one of his best seasons so far. Up to that point, he'd won a couple of events. He won his first event in 91, but 93 he goes out. He plays 21 events. First of all, 19 of them he gets cash in them. He plays the Triple Crown, and he finishes his season with 5 in a row, 5 wins in a row. That's pretty huge. It's noted that he broke the $3,000 cash mark in Open, which at the time, as you old school guys know, that was a very tough, glass ceiling to break. But it's the Worlds. I think Manzi, you referenced this. He came 7th at the Worlds there. Carlton, were you with him at the Worlds there in Huntsville?
Yeah, we were hanging out together. Yeah.
How was he flying there? Did he have some high hopes?
He did. We played doubles together at Huntsville, I think, and he was busting the disc. We got to this one hole, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I can just throw through here, and we'll have a long putt for 2. And I think Larry was throwing a vibrate. Boom! That was the first time I noticed he could throw noticeably further than I could. So he was red hot at Huntsville. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you? Do you have any shining Larry Leonard tournament stories?
Yeah. I have plenty of shining Larry Leonard stories.
Come on with it, Chris.
Well, I started playing disc golf a little later. I started playing at 30 years old, and I guess the year that I was playing in North Carolina was that year. Larry broke his leg in 94. So is that right? Yeah. So I really didn't know Larry then, but in 95 when I went pro, I played with him a lot, and we found out that, we were like 2 weeks apart in age. And I think that's the point we really started like hanging out. And I mean, later we would play, I'd get home from work and we would play video games every single night. It was like, we did that together as well. But I stayed at his house, and I just looked it up. I think it was 96. It was to play Valley Springs in Durham. And I went out there, and I don't know what happened. I had 2 good rounds. I stayed at Larry's house that night, and I know I had him by at least 6 strokes, was leading the tournament. And yeah, I think I made a pyramid of beer cans that night. And the next morning, the first round, I know Larry beat me by 10 strokes that round. And,
Damn.
and he was on fire though. And I think he ended up winning I think he won by 2 in that tournament. I finished second.
Is it safe to say he wasn't
Walter finished 4th. Allen finished 3rd.
I don't recall that.
To say he wasn't contributing to the pyramid construction?
Oh no! Shoot, he encouraged that, but he never got involved. There was many times
why?
Because Larry lived in the basement, and me and like my roommate would come over, and we'd come spend the weekend. And North Carolina had those rules about buying alcohol on Sunday, so we'd make sure we brought 3 cases or something, and we'd make pyramids. But yeah, Larry knew how to, yeah. And I remember after playing 20 years with Larry, he would tell me stuff like, "You still never beat me," and I would have to go. I didn't show him where I beat him. And he's like, "Nah, I don't remember that." Yeah, but yeah, a lot of time spent with Larry. Larry and I traveled. Larry and I went to the West Coast a few times. Where did we go? We went to Santa Cruz. We went to San Francisco. Larry and I we were together. Walt, you were with Christina. Me and Larry were at the Worlds in 2003, Arizona. We went out there and did that.
I was there for that, for sure.
Yeah. He was peculiar. It was funny. Everything we did, he had done either with his parents or his parents had done, like, we got to eat at this restaurant, or we got to, we're driving up the highway. No, you can't drive up the highway. You got to get off the road here and go to those Jeep trails. And, and we went like,
yes, we got Al Beaver too.
Hey, there's AB. But yeah, we spent a lot of time together, I guess because we were about the same age and kind of had similar philosophies and, interests. So
Didn't like ketchup, did he, Chris? Too spicy.
I don't eat ketchup either.
It was definitely too spicy.
I was
Because
just
it's
thinking
made
of a
with
story
vinegar.
at the 04 Worlds in Iowa, where Chris, you were going out to get dinner at a McDonald's, and Larry's like, "I want a cheeseburger plain, nothing on it." Larry's like, Chris looks at him and goes, "That's baby food." You remember that, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Larry had the strangest diet of anyone. We all have stories of what he would eat, and we all know the purple biscuit. He would eat half or a bite of the biscuit before the tournament, or the nabs in the car, like Dave will tell you. I mean, just
Can't really see it. There we go.
Yeah, that was the 04 Worlds. JJ had won AM, and we all went out to dinner. That's me, and there's me in the bottom left, and Alan and JJ and Larry,
Chris
and,
Eisel,
Walt, Chris, and Eddie Ogburn, who got killed in 2009 by a drunk driver.
Wow.
all right, baby.
So that was the 2004 Worlds. I was when Larry passed. I looked at that picture and was like, man, 2 of us from that picture are gone now, and that hurt. Just thinking about that, because I remember that steakhouse. It was like $25, and it was you could get a big ribeye or you get a really small fillet. It was always $25, and they had this thing. It was like $1 off if you could cook your own steak. And Larry's like, why the hell would I do that? It's $1. Go cook my damn steak. You remember that when Larry got so weirded out about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about weird foods or weird diet that he had. Who's got some other road trip / food stories with Larry?
Ooh.
Okay, Carlton, what do you got?
So I think this was kind of Larry's introduction to the grander world stage in PDJ. We went out and played Mid America, Rick Rothstein's tournament, when it was in Columbia, Missouri. And I think that year, a little side note, Brent Hambrick and I were the only people to play both tournaments in Columbia. We played Earlwood in South Carolina and then the Mid America in Columbia.
Oh, nice,
Anyway,
nice.
so Larry finds out. So we fly out there together. So Aaron, Larry, and I are flying out there together. And our buddy Eric Junkin from Mississippi, Tennessee, used to live in Raleigh. Rattle member 001. He met us there, and he's driving us around. And so the first morning we go drive through morning of practice. I think Friday morning we drive through the fast food place to get breakfast, and Eric and I order ham biscuits or sausage biscuits or whatever. And of course Larry eats like a bird or a picky 7-year-old. So Larry, I just want a biscuit and butter. And Eric and I just eat him alive. Man, how you gonna play on now? You're eating like a little kid, a little baby, crazy. So we say that Friday. Saturday morning, same thing. So we're calling him up. Alan the Beeve had nicknamed him Little anyway. So we're playing on Little Pee Wee Peanut. That's our theme. We're hammering him. That's why Larry's so short. We picked on him so much. He'd been taller, but we kept teasing him. So Saturday morning, first day of the tournament, we go through the same thing. Larry's like a prison diet. Biscuits and water is all he needs to eat. I said, dude, you're gonna blow away. So blowing away, he tore it up Saturday. He's in the lead group. I think I was in the second group. Eric's in group 4. Sunday morning, we go through the drive-through. Eric orders biscuits and butter for all of us. Got to eat what the kids. Got to eat what little people. Got to eat what Pee Wee's eating. Because he's obviously setting the stage for good golf. Continue the food story. The first PDJ of before I leave Mid America. So we go out there. Nobody's heard of Larry. They know me. So I might be some trouble. So I think that was the first time Kenny Climo and Steve Valencia actually played in the same event. So a lot of big names out there. Everybody's wondering. They might have to worry a little bit about Carl, or at least I'm hoping, dreaming, imagining they felt like I might be a threat. And so, of course, Larry's there. So Larry finishes in the top 5, 4. I'm not sure. I think I finished 8th, but that was the first time. I remember David Greenwell saying, "Yeah, hey, great. Now we got to worry about you." That was his kind of introduction to the grand stage. I said, "Don't worry." It's like when we first saw Kenny play. Don't worry, he'll be back and he'll be tougher. So, flipping back to another drive-through story. Yeah, I eat in the car a lot. So it's Saturday morning. We're playing the first PDJ in Greenville, North Carolina, East Carolina University. Wonderful course. I think it's been moved since then. So Saturday morning we're going through, and of course I know the deal by now because Larry had a unique talent for riding to an event. You know how to beat Larry? Ask him to drive. But anyway, so we're going through the drive-through on Saturday morning, and I know what Larry wants. He wants a butter biscuit and grape jelly. All right, so get that good. Sunday morning, fast forward Sunday morning, I'm worried, thinking about practicing, how many strokes behind Larry and Stan I am, what I got to make up. I made up enough for second. But anyway, going in the drive-through, we get there, I order my country ham biscuit and sausage biscuit like a real man that might finish second each. And then it's time for Larry's food. But I know by now we've been traveling together for years. So he wants a butter biscuit and grape jelly, but I can't remember grape. So I say, butter biscuit. The ladies, young ladies there, Wade might say, and purple jelly. And it just seems naturally normal to me. And Larry starts dying laughing, and the lady taking the order is dying laughing. This is years before the whole purple drink phenomenon, hit the internet or TV. And so, purple jelly. So the young lady's just going crazy, as is Larry. So I try to explain it gracefully. I'm like, well, you know what I meant. Apparently, I'm the first person ever to order purple.
Purple biscuit, baby.
And so I think for a couple of weeks I was called. Larry called me Purple Jelly.
That would have been a good one to stick.
Continuing the food theme and Larry's weird eating. You talk about eating like a bird, picking at your food. You felt like you needed to kind of be his parent, telling him to finish your food, eat your vegetables. So we were going to Seneca one time playing up in Maryland. We stopped on the way. I think it was, well, you might have been there. It was either you or Hesselberth. I think Brett Rousseau and Larry and I. We stopped at this place and it has a fabulous buffet, all the food in the world you want. Of course, a buffet to Larry, oh, that's a waste, y'all. Like I say, he just needs breadcrumbs and a couple drops of water. He can eat. He doesn't need to eat for a week. So we're at this buffet, and Larry just keeps getting this soup, and he's just enthusiastically eating his soup. Not that he was rude or impolite in his manner of ingesting the soup, but I mean, it apparently was some good soup. So we're sitting there the rest of us because Larry, like I say, will eat breadcrumbs and water, and he's full. But so he's having 2 bowls. So Larry, what are you eating there? And he goes, soup. Sorry, long build up for no cuts. Yeah, we know you're eating soup. Little. What kind of soup is it? You got 2 bowls. So, yeah.
That sounds like a Seinfeld moment. That sounds like a Seinfeld.
Childish enthusiasm and ferocity. Soup. That's the end of my food story. Sorry.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, Carl, you got to tell them about pals, man. You got to tell them about eating their pals.
I don't remember the Larry Powell's experience. Well,
so every year we go to Kingsport, you got to stop in and eat at Powell's. All there is to it.
Only restaurant ever to win a Malcolm Baldrige quality.
It's the only place.
You won't be able to believe it.
It's okay to eat there one day, but we had gone with Carl, Alan. I think it was Alan and Larry and I think this might have been the second day. And Larry says, I'm not eating there. I'm not eating it, Carl. And Carl's like, we're in my car, my decision, we're going to Powell's. And Larry's like, we're not eating here. We're not doing it. And Carl's like, well, pal, get on out the car and go on where you want to go. This car is going to Powell's. Like in the front seat, in the drive-thru, at Powell's. Alan and I in the back going, shit, we're going to eat. We got to eat something. Carl's the driver. Larry gets, as mad as Larry gets. I will never go with you anywhere else. If you take me through this drive-thru. And Carl's like, that's just the way it's going to be. That's just the way it's going to be. I'm like, oh, me and Alan going, we don't know what to do. I guess we're going to get a hot dog, like everybody else. But, them boys in the front seat, we're just getting it on as the ladies asking, what do you guys want? We got another round to go. And these guys, little Larry, was sticking up for himself and saying, I don't want this food. But it's just one of those things. And I think about Kingsport, which is a great place to play. Just thinking about Larry and Powell's and Carl, and nobody meant anything by it. It's just Larry didn't want it, and Carl was like, "This is where the car is going. This is you ride with me. This is where you go." And then Larry's like, "Never again. I'm never. I'm sure it didn't happen, but it was just one of those things. Larry was standing up for himself."
What about you, AB? You kind of came to it a little bit later than us. Do you remember your first impression of Larry Leonard? You were in the scene before he came on. We got Carl's first impression. What about you?
I can't remember. I'm sorry I was a little late, but it is good to see everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Alan.
Trying to pull this up on my tablet, but right now my computer is wanting me to open up a calculator. But
here, I can do some math for you. Just give me a number.
I can't remember the first impression. If I'm not mistaken, Larry might have started out in the AM division. I've never played an AM tournament, but so I can't remember. I just know he was a great putter.
Right on. Well, give us your best Larry story. What you got from any department or any category with Larry?
Go ahead, Chris. Tell us something.
Remember that. I don't remember that Powell's I don't remember that Powell story, Walt, but I know that's the only place that Carl eats when he's in Kingsport. So definitely
That
abstain.
barbecue place.
Also, JJ, I remember the World Championship dinner. Uh, it was a great place because I know I picked it out.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Well, let me
Uh,
tell. Go ahead, Alan.
Let me go ahead and say this story was reminded of me by uh, Paul Batman Childs when Larry passed away. Batman got with me. That's Josh's dad, and recall the story of the '06 Worlds in Augusta, the second hottest Worlds ever, next to Minnesota. Uh, but Larry came in sixth place. I had to look it up before I got on. Um, just missed the cut by 4 or 5 strokes, but he was in the Masters division by then. I didn't even recall. He's just such a great open player. I didn't realize he played some master events, but didn't tell me what round it was. But if you know Lake Olmsted, not one of my favorite courses in Augusta, there's several baskets right by the lake there. Cypress, knee, trees right there. Uh, I guess the water must have been knee deep because Batman said that Larry missed a 25-footer, air mailed it right into the lake. It was for birdie, and he waited his turn, and Batman was watching. Uh, Waited his turn, and then went over and just walked right out into the lake, knee deep.
He did.
Got his putter, got back out, and Batman said it was only like a 15-foot putt. Made his putt for four, and he was walking down the sidewalk there. Batman said you could just hear the water sloshing in his shoes.
Slosh. That's great.
Chris, you were just about to jump in with a story, were you?
Well, Carl reminded me of one of the times that we went to. We flew into. I think we flew into San Francisco, and it was me and Alan and Larry, and we went. We were going out to eat, and I don't know. Larry had to go to a specific restaurant, and we walked around for hours. Saw the Bushman at least 10 times. Just kept walking around, and finally he said, "Oh, this is it. This is it right now." And we went in that restaurant, and it was like a really expensive seafood restaurant. And we were like, why did Larry go to an expensive restaurant? And guess what he orders? Tell us, Carl.
Biscuits.
Soup. We go in there, and we're like, it's got all this like shrimp, like $30 meals, and he wanted a bowl of like crab soup or something that was like $12, and that's
Bread bowl, clam chowder.
it was something. And I mean, it was like, we could have eaten at 15 different places and spent half the money, but he just wanted to go in there.
Justin, do you have any road trip stories with Larry?
Oh yeah. I'm just thinking about the best one to share. When I just share a little bit of context about how I knew Larry is. I came into the scene. I've been playing disc golf for 32 years now. It's hard to believe, but since I was a little kid and 6 years old, and Larry, Walt, a lot of my family was into disc golf. We had a course in our backyard growing up, and so Larry met me at one point or another when I was really, really young. Well, when I started getting better and better and became an AM and started playing PDGA events, Larry and I met Walt, and quickly became my idols because they were the best around here. And so this was right after AM Worlds that I won in 2004. But I started getting into the pro ring, started playing a lot of professional tournaments, and Larry and I went on a trip to it was our first trip ever together, and we went to Augusta, Georgia for the Hall of Fame.
Did you drive?
No, I couldn't drive.
Something's wrong.
I couldn't drive, and so
Something's wrong.
Yeah. So Larry drove the whole way, and Larry drove a stick shift. You guys remember this little car stick shift, like
Saturn,
a
yeah.
That little purple thing.
Yeah. And he's like, well, what do we do if I get sick? And he was always trying to be prepared or think about what's the worst case scenario. And I said, well, Larry, I said, I can drive. I said, I just can't drive. So he's like, I don't know if I like that. But so we decided to go. We went and we had the best time. And it was, Larry was like my uncle, big brother, that I never really had growing up. And, but we went to Augusta and I played really well, finished really well. But it's so funny hearing you all talk about the food stories. There was one thing that he always said when we went to a restaurant, and that was, he had to have his sweet tea. So always had to have his sweet tea, and it had to be perfect sweet tea. And as he started getting older, and he started cutting back on the sweet tea, it had to be the perfect right amount of sweet, or half and half. And so he'd go back to the waiter or waitress multiple times, saying, it needs to be a little bit sweeter, or it's not sweet enough. I mean, it's just it's so funny hearing all the food stories. We all have them, right? So look, I've got so many fun stories about him. But that was our first trip to Augusta. We went to a trip to Bowling Green, Kentucky one time. Got caught, and he drove that one as well. So if you can imagine, yeah, he did these 2 times.
Maybe just when he was the oldest.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he felt like a grown up.
He was 2 weeks older than me.
He's like 10 years older than Walt.
He was 10 years older than me.
Well, dude, not everybody's got a blackened palate, Chris. I mean, shit.
It's true.
But I remember we went and played my first time ever to Bowling Green, and I remember us going up there the whole way. And he's always telling us stories that Walt, you and he had gone to Bowling Green, I think several times, had some great times and great memories. And I remember us getting caught in a hailstorm one time. And he was it was at there was one of the courses. I don't think it was Kariakis, but it was
Lovers Lane, Kariakis,
Hobson Grove.
Hobson Grove.
And we're sitting there and we're in a hailstorm, and I'm like, Larry, what do? We need to get like under something. And so he goes, and it's starting to hail, and he's like, well, I'm worried about the car, and he parks under a tree, under a very thin tree. And I'm like, Larry, this is not going to do anything. He's like, well, it's better than nothing. And so we laughed about that, but that was the thing with Larry is you were always going to laugh. Okay. You're always going to have some fun memories and fun moments. And the great thing about Larry is he would always remember it too. And he would be telling you years down the road a story that you didn't even remember or you had forgotten about. Nice. He told me about one time it was that trip we went to Kentucky. I had forgotten his sunglasses. He let me borrow his sunglasses. And I left him at a gas station bathroom. And he got so pissed at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, man, chill out. I'm sorry. You got another pair. I was like, I'm the one that doesn't have a pair. And he said, do you remember when you forgot my sunglasses? So he was just so funny remembering things. It's so funny. Yeah.
Did he ever tell you about laughing at Walter who got caught in a hailstorm?
Yeah.
No.
There was a lot of people that got caught in that hailstorm, Chris.
And me and Larry were at the meteor crater looking up at the top of the mountain at Snowball. Was Snowball?
Snowball.
Mm-hmm. And we were like, look, the mountain's white. And he's like,
I was in that hailstorm too.
He's like, Walt's not having a good time, is he? And we were like down there sightseeing down at the meteor crater.
Burning up 85 degrees.
85 degrees.
Yeah, I wasn't in the Porta-John, but I was sitting on the bench with Schwebby and 2 other guys. Like Mike Rayleigh was in the Porta-John, and can't remember who else. But 3 guys got in the porta potty, and like we went up with shorts and t-shirts, and it just turned into pea-size hail, and we were like the second highest T-pad, and that was a rough one for sure. Like we just got shoulder to shoulder to shoulder because we were hoping to just like cool our heat. just to stay warm because it dropped probably 35, 40
Well,
degrees.
we were warned. Dan Gilly and those guys, they did a good job. They warned us that was going to happen. I think there was 20 people. Felt like 20 people up there on the top of the ski lift.
Yeah, something like
One
that.
porta john and one of two umbrellas was mine.
One easy.
that we had
I think
carried just for the hell.
Too, and that's it.
Yeah, and we hold it up, like we were calling a play, and then Gilly comes up and grabs us, rescues us, so to speak.
That's right.
That's when Schwebe got hurt.
It's exactly when Schwebe
he had to quit. Hurt. Yeah.
And if you remember too, during the finals, that storm came through, and we were down at Little America, and you could see the same thing happen. That mountaintop capped out wide again.
We had to replay that round. We had to finish that round. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. We had to finish that round. Those are the days. Those are the worlds that you play 2 rounds in a day. That you play one, travel, play another.
World's days.
Real men did that. Not this 4-round world's crap.
Even if it's 6, it's still not an endurance contest.
Yeah, but the cool thing about Larry was that as you talk to different people everywhere, he had told them a story, or they had their own story, and he didn't tell you. So it was their story together. It was their stuff. Just saw Rico and Schick and all those guys here, and they had stories that I had never heard. And I think that was the cool thing about Larry, was he didn't share all of everyone else's information. He was a very trustworthy guy in that regard. That's one of the things I can confide in him anything I wanted to, and he was not going to go out and say, "Oh my God, Walt told me this." And then if he shot 15 under, or one of the stories is in Winston-Salem he shot 20 under in practice. Mm-hmm. Then in the tournament he shot 4 17s, but he never gloated about any of that. He just didn't do it, and I think that's what made him even better than what he was.
Well, that's he had, like a lot of our legends, a lot of great impressive qualities, and you can identify whether it's his gamesmanship, his professionalism, his demeanor, his comportment. Manzi, what about Robert or Larry Leonard was for you kind of, what did you idolize, or what did you respect the most in Larry?
First off, Robert has no association, no fan.
Yes, no, I do. He said that. But, sorry.
First time that has ever happened. That me and Larry with the same last name, who live 3 miles from each other. First time it's ever happened, for the record.
Actually, for me, one of the things that I really remember strongly, or really about Larry, was how kind Larry was to me. Right, so we actually met because Larry was constantly at the course. Right, he was playing all the time. He didn't have a basket in his yard, so he was out at Cedar Hills playing, and that's where I started to play. And then I was the guy that's a crackhead like most of us, where I'm out there and I'm just like, how do you buy these things? Let's go. I got to do this more, right? So I'm instantly playing a couple of rounds a day, sometimes 5-6 days a week. Larry's there all the time. And Larry's like, hey, you should come out to the monthlies. Hey, you should come in. And he was just like, he was very open about saying, oh, you should try this with your foot, or you should try this with your grip, or he would just watch it. He wouldn't even from my experience, he wouldn't even say, you're doing this wrong. He would just say, you might want to try, right? He was just really just a nice, genuine person, and really we kind of became family. Carlton too, and Larry, and Robert, and see, I did it the other way though, Robert. So we're good. Walt too, and Chris, all these folks that were in this room, particularly became family. I moved from New York, where I didn't really, I didn't know anybody here when I moved here, one person, and so these folks really became like close, good friends, and people that I could confide in, and Larry's kindness was, really what came to me as and just being a good dude. He was one of those guys like Walt said, you can tell him anything, and Larry usually have pretty good advice for you, whether it's like putt a little harder or maybe more spin. but about life shit too.
So sometimes you're confused, or they confuse you with being maybe related. Robert, what was the most amazing thing about Larry that you really stood out for you
Well,
when you're coming up?
the old joke was that Larry was Robert's dad, and Kirk Yo used to say, "What makes you think Larry's ever had sex before?" That was always the running joke there. That was from Kirk Yo, but unlike these guys, I played very little disc golf with Larry. By the time that I didn't really hit the disc golf scene and the PDJ scene 2004, 2005, and then I'm playing MA1. And then I didn't start going pro till 06, and by that point, I'm in the bottom of the MPO, so maybe the first round. Larry's starting to phase out, so I didn't get to play a lot with him, and I had this when he passed, I had this like realization that he and I were probably a lot better friends than I realized. When I was, if the one thing that I always remember, will never forget about Larry, is just how finicky he was with money. And me and Walt and JJ and Larry, we got into a phase probably 10 years ago where we played a lot of golf, like ball golf together. And Walt had a job, I had a job, JJ had a job, Larry didn't have a job. So we're playing on Saturday. Larry would never play golf on why would I play golf on a Saturday when I can play on Tuesday for $14? Never. And there was periods of my professional career where I was out of work, and I played a lot of golf on Tuesdays and Wednesdays with Larry. We'd play Wendell Country Club, and we'd play 27 holes, and he'd get his little hot dog, and that's all he'd eat, And we would play the back nine twice. And I remember just the silliest thing, because Larry was a pretty good golfer. He was better than me, but I hit the ball further than Larry. And I remember this hole 18, this par 5. I mean, I killed the drive, had a 3-wood in, killed the 3-wood, still couldn't get to the green.
Say hi.
And hey, Cam.
Cam is saying hi. She's going night night.
And it was almost like a disc golf tournament. Larry goes into the clubhouse and finds the guy, like, I need to talk to the pro here. Like he's bitching at a tournament director or something. He's like, Robert just hit 2 of the best shots I've ever seen and still couldn't get on that green 2 and 18. Why don't you move the tee box up? This is stupid. Like, just like going off on like this. And I was like, Larry, we paid $14 for 27 holes, man. And just and probably one of my favorite golf stories was the same for me, Walt, JJ, and Larry. We had JJ had a roommate named Dakota, and Dakota is a professional golf teacher and had an internship at Pinehurst, where they play like U.S. Opens, and could get us on any course out there except for the one that you play the U.S. Open for like $20. And we took a day off, and the 4 of us went and go play. It was Pinehurst number 1. The 4 of us played together. And there was this greenskeeper following us. And it made Larry so mad that this greenskeeper was watching us play. And he's just like, and what did he say something, JJ? Like, I'm not playing this hole. Just like sat in the cart for the entire hole and refused to play it because this guy was watching him. Am I wrong in that? That's what happened, right?
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Very particular at times.
And I'll be brief here. My favorite disc golf story of Larry, well, I got 2. I can't ever decide which one's my favorite. One of them was at the Zebulon Cha-Ching and Zing that Manzi was running. And this was kind of back in the days where you could, you always mix cards the first round. It was completely random. And Larry had to play the first round with like an intermediate woman. And at lunch, and Zebulon is not a long course now.
That's my fault. I'll take full responsibility for this.
I will say, Manzi designs hard and long courses. That is like his signature. And Zebulon's not long for these standards, but back in the day, that was a long course. It's probably 6,000, 7,000 feet, probably.
Yeah, 6,700.
Yeah, and we're at lunch with Larry, and And I was like, what was it like playing with her? I said, were you looking for disc all the time? And he said, hell, she couldn't throw it far enough to lose it. So that. Oh, and the last one was, if you've ever seen Weedy, the guy who won Am Worlds in Miami Pro, he had like, and I don't know if this if this is whatever we see, but he would do this like crazy arm motion when he was throwing. And we were playing the points bonanza that Allen was running, and hole 3 at Kilbourne was in this field, just an easy little turnover shot. And I'm coming in, I'm starting on 4, and I'm walking in, and I just see Larry on the bench with his head down, just hands in his face, and this is before digital scoring. You had no idea what anybody was shooting. I was just like, oh man, Larry played like shit, man. I gotta leave Larry alone. Come back in from lunch. Larry's got a 5-shot lead. Just destroyed it. And I said, Larry, like, what in the hell, dude? I walked by you and you were like, just, head in your hands. He was like, Weedy was throwing, and I was worried that if I saw him, I would copy that throw. But no, just a great guy and a great friend, and it hurt to lose him, and just super modest. And the one thing I'd always say about Larry is, if you didn't know how good he was, you wouldn't know, right?
Yeah. Well, I was doing a quick little look at some of these stats, and especially at the USDGC. He did very well there amongst the top level players. He had 7 visits, and he averaged $1,322 per tournament appearance there. That's some high level consistency against one of the biggest fields out there.
That's a large average for sure.
I remember there was one speech of his at USDGC where it was right. I always had the distance contest, and then they go right into the awards. And Larry was like, he finished like 3rd, 4th, whatever. He's like, man, just watching all these guys throw distance, I love the yellow rope. And that's all he said.
True story. You didn't have to throw far. I mean, you just did. USDGC is the perfect spot where you don't have to throw far, especially back then. 99 to 06 when we played, it was hit the gap, throw 300 feet, throw another 150. It was pretty simple. And Larry didn't throw far. I mean, he finished his top 3rd twice there, maybe multiple top 10s. I mean, if you look at all the tournaments that you play that are long courses, Larry is up there. I just did it from 91 to 09 when he quit. He didn't throw far. Everybody knew that. He would always be at the top. Unless he was sick or hurt, he would just be at the top. He was just accurate.
What was his in-game? We've talked to people. They talked about Climo. We've talked to other people about Stokely with a rather fragile mental set. Did Larry have the eye of the tiger? Did he have that killer instinct? Could he kick it up in extra gear and not get rattled?
Larry had no pressure. He never felt pressure. That I know of.
Level. He was level. I mean, calm. It didn't matter. He was gonna play at that level. The only way to beat him was to play better. That was how to beat Larry.
Yeah. I saw him.
I just never knew Larry to feel pressure ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Who's got the VTI story? I was in the car ready to go home. I thought we lost. Who's got the VTI? Raleigh. We went in. Dave George. Larry hits a big putt. I think Dave George and the amateurs.
Oh, that crazy putt around the tree. That it's like it's somewhere on YouTube, but it's like 80 or 90 feet, and he essed it. Like he had to go around something with this crazy anhyzer, but then also have enough touch for it to stall and hyzer out.
It is on video somewhere. Yeah,
it's somewhere out there, and it literally won the team tournament based on this putt. I mean, I don't know who was playing as. I think it might have been. I don't know if it was Dave George playing with him or not, but it was.
It was.
Yeah, it was Dave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we went up there a lot with Larry, and I know that year I wasn't there. Y'all won it, and there was a year where me and Walt and Carlton and Larry and Eddie
did he drive
earlier, and we won. No, he didn't win. He didn't drive. I wrote
it might have been 05. It seemed like 05 or so.
Yeah, it was Carl was on that team. It was 04. It was
04 and 05. We won We won 2 of those years.
Yep.
I remember coming into the clubhouse. Mike Hoffman had lost. I think Mandy had lost. I'd win in the extra holes with JG and lost. We're like, well, we're doomed. I mean, there you go, right there. Larry was being, going dormy. Dave George, and I forget who was the other amateur? Was it
Jeremy Bond?
Jeremy. And we just knew the first 3 to come in with losses that we were doomed against that good team.
Larry playing Gawler. Who was Larry playing against?
I don't remember.
That was the year at the Grange where the Hawk Hollow had flooded out.
Maybe.
Yes.
Because the putt that he hit was on the road hole at the dark side.
He just didn't feel pressure. If he had to do it, he was going to do it.
So when you combine getting in the ropes, perfect accuracy, an amazing putter, and someone who doesn't really feel a lot of pressure, kind of the ideal doubles partner. Is that not right?
Yes.
I mean, Walt,
Yeah.
you had a lot of success with Larry, especially in the cross state doubles. Tell us about how awesome was that for you to know you got Larry backing you up on any throw you're throwing?
Well, not just cross state. We finished second back-to-back years in world doubles.
Okay.
In world doubles by 1 stroke both years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we that was probably the hardest thing for him, not being a world champion before he passed away. Was probably the biggest regret was us missing that putt. Of all things, missing a putt.
What year? What worlds was that? Do you remember?
That was the 01 Minnesota. We had a huge lead. We played worst shot. I think we shot 7 under. I think we had a really big lead, and Kenny came up and he said, "There's no way y'all shot that." He said, "There's no way. That's impossible." And we're like, "Okay, dude. Like, whatever. It is what it is." We shot. I think I'm pretty sure it was 7 down, and we had 5 or 6 stroke lead. And in the last round, we didn't play well. We played with Schultz and Rick Folks were together, and we didn't play well. And best score, best shot. We didn't play well, and we got down to about a 240-foot downhill, wide open in the woods, 1 tree, massive oak tree. We throw down, and I go to the left behind the tree, and he slides down. He goes behind the left, behind the tree. Mine chains out to the right. His cuts through the back. And we're like, we didn't play good enough to win. Well, here comes Kevin McCoy running. They're trying to figure out what we shot, and they have shot really well. Him and Stokely shot really well and beat us. So that was disheartening, but
I'm looking at the stats. They got you by 5 strokes that last round. That's that second round.
They got us. We did not play well, but cross state was fun. We the Tennessee guys. They started that. And we played real well there every year. Larry was usually what we did was hole to hole. We figured out who was going to go first. If it was a big bombing shot, he was going to lay first, and I was going to bomb. And I putted first every single time because he was the better putter. I wasn't bad. Larry was better. So we just did that. That was our routine. And he called the shots. He'd say, "I'm going to go first. I'm going to throw a roller. I want you to bomb out this way." We both knew each other's game really, really well, probably as much as anybody in this room. But he called the shots everywhere we went, what he wanted me to do, and that's what we did. So,
nice.
And that's how we did it. And we decided cross state, we would just go till we lost. Every year would alternate Burlington or Tennessee. And then he says, "Man, let's just play till we lose." So eventually Tic Tac and Jay Bird got us, and we never went back. So,
how many years in a row was that, Walt?
We won back-to-back years. Don't ask me the year. But the third year we were in contention, but just we didn't play the farm. I think they had somebody's temporary course, and we didn't play that very well. Didn't have enough time to go and practice.
Those are no joke either. There's some good
right, and they're great players.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I saw Jay Bird this weekend. It was just really good to see everybody. So
Yeah, good.
But that's how we did it. You know, he would call every shot. You do this, I'll do that. So
Well, so when this whole thing came up, I was talking to Carl about it because I was making plans to go fishing at his place, and Carl just started spitting out story after story after story, but primarily a lot of it was had to do with basketball. So Carl, why don't you tell us that free throw story, man? Because it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, a lot of disc golfers are good at a lot of things, particularly, your more competitive disc golfers. And Larry's like a lot of other folks, but he's really good athlete, really good at basketball. A lot of people don't know that. And in fact, he was ruling on the courts there at Cedar Hills. He went to Cedar Hills to play basketball. He didn't. He was making fun of the Satchel Boys. In fact, he and older gentleman that owned a pizza place, Andy's Pizza, just up the street, were ruling the basketball court. Andy grew up in an orphanage, could just drain it from three. So he had this little kid, the paper boy and the pizza man, the pizza restaurant owner were, dealing on the basketball court. And I'd see Larry out there playing. He'd make fun of the disc golfers. I don't know how he ever started playing. But anyway, obviously, we know how the disc golf story ended. So Larry and I were very close. He was like my little brother. We were playing disc golf, talking about stuff one day, and Larry says, Carl, I made 1,000 free throws, over 1,000 free throws in a row one time. And I'm like, what? And I got a lot of friends that do a lot of incredible stuff, so it's not unusual for me to hear a very unusual claim. So I've learned not to holler bullshit right away. I'll wait 7 or 8 seconds. And Larry says, yeah, PE in high school. I said, bullshit. I said, you didn't shoot any 1,000 free throws in PE, dude. I said, that would take hours. You couldn't do that in PE class. That would take like 4 hours.
On a half a biscuit.
Yeah. Well, after lunch. So he had 2.5 biscuits. So he turned and looked at me and said, Carl, you're the first person that's ever said how long it would take. Everybody else says it's bullshit. And that, you're the first one that's ever said that would take 4 hours. He said, it took that long. Teacher let me keep shooting, went past class. He let me skip class, stay in the gym, right? At school ends, right? People start, what's happening in the gym? People start coming back in the gym to watch this little white kid shooting free throws. About 800, everybody starts getting excited. And he's in the gym. I think he shot 1,031 in a row. I play a little bit of basketball. Gosh, if I hit 10 in a row, it was a red letter day. My good friend John Bisco is aces on the basketball court up in Richmond. I think the most he's hit is like 30 in a row. I can hit 30 footers in a row, but I can't hit 30 free throws in a row. But that's the kind of athlete he was. I mean, he'd have played in college if he'd have been 3 or 4 inches taller. An incredible basketball player. We had a big Kenwood, there was a little basketball court in the parking lot. And one year at the Crosstown, a basketball match broke out in the between rounds. Harold was out there playing, David Greenwell. They're both incredible basketball players. They're so good. I watched. Of course, I was a TD, but you'd be amazed. Opting off of the 1,000, 932. 932 is close to 1,000, right? Why is 932 unique? This is the kind of crap Larry would come up with. I go out to Cedar Hills. I think he calls. I worked real close to Cedar Hills, Coastal Credit Union. Larry calls me up on the phone and says, Carl, you know how many cigarette butts are on hole 2 at Cedar? I'm like, no, I don't. Now why would I know that? But Larry was on a campaign about people littering on the disc golf course, so he picked hole 2 at Cedar, and he picked up all the cigarette butts. I think it took him 5 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. Again, he wasn't working, and he wasn't driving to a tournament. So, so he had a container. I don't remember if this before or after. Was it you, Beav, or was it me? Somebody got little R.J. Reynolds Company, tobacco manufacturer here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They had these little like a coin purse, so you could put
I remember those.
Remember those? The
And
little
we gave those away at Rattle events. I think I got them from Alan, or or got the idea from Alan. But so that kind of spurred. I think I was what spurred Larry into counting the cigarette butts. So he spent, I believe it was 5 hours picking up 930. But and so hey, I'm like, oh dude, what about the rest of the holes? Now the course isn't in balance. You gotta go hole to hole and get all the cigarette butts.
Well, Carl,
He was funny that way. He really didn't like litter. His car he could have his car as dirty as all get out.
Yeah.
But nothing could fly out of his car.
Wasn't
He'd have to go
driving
pick it
anywhere.
up.
He wasn't driving anywhere, so it didn't
Yeah,
matter.
it never fly out because he never drove it.
That's right.
Carlton,
Got the
when,
driveway and rolled downhill to Cedar Hill.
did he pick up the cigarette butts before lunch or after lunch?
That was after lunch.
Yeah,
He
because
didn't wake up before lunch.
well, Mansfield said that he was always out there, but I guarantee he wasn't out there before noon.
Well, so I was working nights, and I wasn't getting out there till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning myself. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But Larry would play 2 rounds at Cedar, go to lunch, which is at his house, and then come back and play a third. And he would tell you that if he's here today, he would argue that he has by far played the most rounds at Cedar Hills of anybody ever. And then, you just let him have it. You don't know if it's true or not, but you just, you let him have it. Hey, man, you probably have. I've lived here 17 years. I play 3 rounds a day, 7 days a week, and that's what got him good. That's what got him real good.
In all
Who
that
drove him
time,
there?
Right?
did you guys play a lot of money rounds with him? Or did
Oh,
people play a
gosh.
lot of money
that
rounds
was
with him?
stupid for me.
Well,
It'd be stupid for all of us.
Okay.
so I tried to hustle him one time. I thought, I had a better forehand. So it was like, hey, we're gonna play these forehand rounds. And I got him once, maybe twice, but it was you drove with a forehand. You had to approach with a forehand, but after that, you putt. And I thought, hey, I got an advantage. I putt farther than him. Nah, he never missed a putt. Yeah. I thought I had him on something. I thought I could beat him at something. No, he was a better putter. It's all about the putt.
So when I got good, not as good as Larry, but when I got good, when we did practice, everybody else know this story where he says, "You're not playing with anyone else."
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
was just thinking about that.
Yeah. So where we were, people would come up and they'd approach and they'd want to play with, 2 of the locals or whatever. I always felt bad. Larry would be like, "We're not playing with anyone. We're not playing." And if they do, we're playing for $100. That was like every single time. I'm like, dude, come on, man. You gotta show the locals some love. Teach these guys. He goes, "Nope, I'm here to practice. I'm here to win stuff." He wanted to play with people that was as good as him. And not that he didn't have time to teach people, because he was actually one of the first people I know to get paid for teaching at Cedar Hills. But at those moments, he wanted to play. He wanted to be competitive, and he wanted to better his game. And I remember, I don't remember the year, but I remember so many times that people would come up and he'd say, "We're not playing, it's just like a free for all. It's $100 bill." And people would just kind of be like, "All right, jerk," and walk off. And I always felt bad. I felt like I was nicer than Larry, for the most part. But I remember in 2016 when I met Max Krotz in Carthage, we played a few holes and had kind of a little crowd and formally, introduced myself. And he goes, "I remember you." I'm like, "Uh-oh, this ain't good." And he goes, "You were an asshole." And I'm like, "What did I do? I don't even know you." And he goes, "I pulled into Cedar Hills. I'm driving in from Greenville. I don't know my way around the course. I'm driving in. I don't know where hole 1 is. You and Larry are up on hole 5, which is across, you see as you pull in. I roll the window down. I'm like, 'Hey, guys, I'm from Greenville, just drove an hour. Can you point me to hole 1? And Larry's like, "Nope." Go come on, man. Like, let me speak. He's like, ain't happening. He goes, well, can I just park right here and hop on with y'all? Nope. Playing for $100. And I'm like, God, man, it just tearing at my heart to just let this guy play with us. And Max to this day would say the same story. He goes, y'all were assholes, man. Y'all were straight jerks. I cannot believe y'all did that. And I'm like, damn it, Larry. But that's how he was. He was so competitive. He wanted to be that way, and it didn't matter what it took to win. He wanted to better himself every single time he was on the course.
One of the things that reminds me of, Walt, is the other side of Larry. So also Larry loved to play doubles, right? He'd come out to Tuesday and Thursday doubles. He'd travel to Kentwood, go to play at Cedar Hills. He played those a ton. And I remember as an AM, you're like, oh man, I hope I get Larry tonight or Walt. Or, you're hoping for you or Carl or right, some of you guys that were banging at the time. But he was also, even at those times, like again, he was willing to coach a little bit, and I think that came naturally for him too, right? Like, that was something that he liked seeing other people. He's like, he didn't want to get beat, but he liked seeing other people play.
Yeah, I think he was so confident in his game that he knew if this guy gets good, he'll start playing pro, and that's just more people for me to beat.
Yeah, right. More money for me.
More money.
I remember, it's so funny you talked about this. So I have an experience where, again, me, Walt, and JJ, and Larry were going to go play around at Zebulon, and like word got out, and like 20 people showed up, and Larry like pulls us in like we're all like, I kind of got the image of you at Snowball, like all hugging together. And he's like, this is my group today. Like he was like very like boundary forming. Like I'm playing with these three guys, nobody else. And the $100, man, that we had there was this guy, he's still around randomly, is Ed Williams. And Ed, we were all
I hope he's doing well.
We were all down at Cut's house in Wilmington to play a tournament in Wilmington. It was it was the off season, and there was a C tier in Kinston, and it kind of back in the message board days, everybody rallied and said, "Hey, let's all go play this monthly in Wilmington." So it felt like a PDJ event. I mean, like because everybody who was playing in Kinston was there the day before, and Ed and Schwebby got drunk. And
no way.
Yeah, well, it's like it's like one of those you got to understand story one to understand the Larry story, and the course in Wilmington, Castle Hayne, it's very long. It's par 65, par 66, really hard, and Ed Williams might be, outside of maybe Calvin Heinberg, the best rhino thrower I've ever seen, and we used to call him Ijar because he would say it's just a rhino. And and Ed bet Schwebby $100 while he was drunk that he could beat him the next day with just a rhino. Well, long story short, he goes out the next morning and he does it. He beat Schwebby with just a rhino. So then it was like this legend that anytime, any place, any course, Ed Williams will play you for $100. He would putt with an AVR, but all he could throw was rhinos, and Ed will tell you to this day that he's lifetime up on that bet. But Larry used to, and then Larry heard about this. He says, "Oh, that dude, he ain't got a chance." He said, he's just gonna do it. He's gonna say it in the wrong course, and it's just not gonna go well. And he said, and he's just like Larry. He's just almost like a lion, just like waiting to attack. And we go to this course in Govan, South Carolina. There was this place called Stillwater's Farm and it was 10,000 feet, OB everywhere, lake, windy as hell. Larry comes up and, "Ed, today's your day, buddy. Today's the day." And Larry waxed him.
Yeah, his nickname was Ijar. It's just a rhino.
You remember that when he played him in Govan, because we all stayed in that house together. Because
that was just done.
Because Walt had won the tournament there before, and part of the first place winnings was a coupon to stay in the house on site. So Walt just got the coupon for the house, and we were all staying in there. So and then it was like 6 or 7 of us, Schwebby, Walt, Larry, and Brian McCree. like one of these guys is going to JJ. One of these guys is going to win. So we never paid for lodging because one of those guys was always going to win. And the next time there was a tournament, we would all just stay there for free.
Nice.
That's a
Were you in the equation? Robert, were you in the equation? That
I was what you would call a freeloader at the time.
He was the lucky little boy.
added cash? Added
Mascot.
I rode with Walt, who drove, not Larry.
That's true.
Well, Larry was in the car though, right?
I know the first time me and you went by ourselves, but I feel like the next time I was in Greenville, so I went with Schwebby, and I think you, Larry, and JJ, and I know I played with you there one time, Carl. I know you went there once, but that was actually a really like special place, and it kind of fell apart. It was the guy who the mayor of the town was last name was Gaines. Like it sounded like Gayness, but it was Ganus, and the tournament was called the Gayness Cup, and it was just like, could we have picked a worse tournament name? But the course was incredible, and I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah,
middle of nowhere.
But before we get too far along, I do want to say if they're listening, I don't know, that Larry's family did gift us his entire disc collection. A lot of discs, a lot of used, a lot of new. Some are good, some are not, but still, to have his name on 400 used discs is pretty cool. And we have given a couple of hundred away already. So we still have those, and we want to thank, if Lisa and Andrew are listening, we want to thank them for giving us those discs. That was pretty cool.
Very cool.
I carry one in my bag, and every time I play on at least one hole, I tee off with a disc that says Larry Leonard on it. It's one of his first run surges.
Nice.
Larry did some pretty creative things with his discs too. He always put his initials on it, LL, and his PDJ number, and then
Never marked it the same way twice.
never marked it the same way twice. Oh, there's one B.
Oh, there we go.
3832. And so the end of a leopard, right? He would always take out, so it was LEOPARD, but he would kind of scratch off the bottom of the P, so it looked like Larry Leonard, and he had Larry Leonard on there.
That was the first thing I said, Walt, when Walt called us and said, "Hey, we're giving this disc away." I said, "I've got to have one of those Larry Leopards, right?"
Yeah.
Just because of the Leonard thing.
Yeah.
And like 2 weeks ago, my wife sat on it and broke the damn thing, so I had to get another one for Walt.
There you go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, just to kind of go around for everybody. What's one of the things you're going to remember the most about Larry, and what's one of the things, if you meet someone and they don't know who Larry is, what are you going to say to them about that? Let's start with you, Mancy.
Wow. If I'm going to go figure out an arrow, and Larry put an arrow in my hands back in the day early, it didn't stick very long. But, I think Larry would say, if you're looking for disc golf, go figure out how to really throw a disc that holds any line that you throw at it. Really learn how to throw a Frisbee or a disc or whatever you're going to call it, versus learn how to throw a 13-speed driver.
Yeah, that's old school technologies right there.
Start at the root.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What are you going to remember the most about Larry?
Well, I remember stuff that's not even disc golf related, because
Some of the stuff you probably don't need to know.
no. Well, I mean, I remember we used to play every single day a video game. I'd get home from work. I'd come home. We turn on the Xbox. I'd turn on the Xbox, and Larry'd be on there waiting. I don't know if you played with him too, JJ. Played Destiny.
Oh yeah.
And we would play every day, and all we would do while we're playing is just tell stories about what we remembered, from disc golf, and we just played, and we did it for easily a year every single day, and it was pretty much after Larry, I think, had quit playing, And and then till one day he told me, "Yeah, I don't think I can keep doing this. I'm too busy." But
with his job.
and he had no job. I mean, I tell
His
people,
gamer tag
Larry,
was Killer LL.
Larry never has Larry ever filed taxes. I don't think Larry ever had a job other than disc golf.
He wouldn't know how to.
When he inherited the money, he did, yeah, but not with the job.
Somebody 1099'd him, I'm sure.
Somebody maybe.
Probably Harold Duvall.
I mean, back in the day, I remember him complaining about getting 1099s at tournaments. He was like, "What is this?"
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, JJ? What do you have? Any takeaways that you're gonna share the world with?
Yeah. I mean, Larry and I were very, very close. And like Chris, outside of disc golf, and we started out with the disc golf relationship. But I would just say for Larry, one of my best friends, and what I'm going to remember the most about him is just how thoughtful he was. I mean, just we heard some things about how he was a good guy, but he was very thoughtful, and you could have a very intellectual conversation with him. We talked about a lot of different things. He was into science. He was into just really cool things, and I'll just tell everyone a really thoughtful story. So when this house I'm living in now was being built. There was an old house on it, and they tore down the house and they put two houses right side by side. Well, we were kind of walking through the property once the house was torn down, and we were walking in the back, and we found some old pots. And one of these pots, it was all dirty and nasty, but it had been here from the house before. And he said, "Do you mind if I take this?" I said, No, you take whatever you want. And so he takes the pot, and Larry loved plants, loved flowers, just loved that, love kind of spending time doing that. And so this was my house was built 6-7 months later, and it's maybe we've been in the house a couple months, and he comes back and he's got that pot, and there was a jade plant, friendship plant, that he'd put in there and let it grow, and it had blossomed, and gave it to me, and I still have that friendship plant sitting on my windowsill right now. So that was the kind of guy Larry was. He was just very thoughtful, very smart guy. And I think that's what, you think disc golf, all the things he was really good at, that's why he was good at it. He was just a really smart, thoughtful guy. So,
Wow.
Hey, Walt, thank you. I've got a couple of those jade plants kicking right now too.
Got one.
Absolutely. I think we had handed out 20 plus jade plants from Larry's cuttings that we cut.
I've got two that are super happy. They're growing like crazy.
And I've got several people that have sent pictures, and it's just perfect. So,
What about you, Robert? I know that you didn't really get a lot of experience with them on the field and all, but anything that you take away from all of this?
Yeah, I if you've ever seen this is kind of where my head went. Ever seen the 30 for 30 about Bo Jackson? And it's just nothing but these like legendary stories, like Carlton's 1,000 free throw story, right? It's like as somebody who
busting the bat over his head and all of
that.
Yeah.
I'm
a Royals fan, so
yeah, all the crazy stuff.
I grew up
right?
with a lot of that, man. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like growing up in this community. Larry kind of had that prestige to him, right? That this you heard all these stories and you heard about all these moments and all these about this guy that just was just unbeatable and was just so good. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have told me about Larry shooting 20 under at Horizons, right? I mean, just, Larry would tell me, he says, every time I play a practice round, I'd try to ace hole 1 because I always wanted to shoot 19. And he says, and I can't tell you how many times I've aced hole 1 and shot 18 under. It's almost like I had dinner with Juliana Corber last week when she was in Raleigh. And I was telling her about my wife. I was introducing her to my wife, and I was like, how many world titles do you have? And she was like, and I was like, that's all you need to know, babe. Right? She doesn't know, right? It's very similar with Larry. Like, how many times you shot 18 under? I don't know. Right? And so he was like one of those first legendary figures in our area, living legend Larry Leonard, right? And it's on the back of our shirts that we got for him. And just that true kind of like, it just very similar to how people would talk about Bo Jackson. Just this legendary figure that would do things that were almost unbelievable. And then you watch him play and you realized it was all true. So,
do you remember the Grange story with Larry, where Larry was playing, and I don't recall what happened, but Larry was in the lead group. He may not have been winning. He was maybe second or third. And I think you passed the arcade during the round. There's Larry sitting in there playing video games.
Yeah. I came in. It was the year that it had rained and there was mud everywhere.
Yeah, you're like, what happened, Larry? And he goes, I didn't feel like playing. I felt like playing video games.
Yeah, he said, I forgot there was. He said,
I didn't have any fun. He wasn't having fun. Yeah.
He told me. He said, if I'd have remembered there was video games, I'd quit a long time ago.
Yep.
What game was he playing? Now I want to know.
All of them. He was playing all of them.
He was like just like I said, man. It's just these legendary stories that this crew got to experience a lot more than I did, and I kind of grew up in that, like, this guy's the legend, and I didn't get to see it, but I know all about it, and that's what I'll really remember from a disc golf standpoint, is just that aura around him that people would talk about.
Do you know that he played Pebble Beach? I know y'all played ball golf with him. Did you know he ever played Pebble Beach?
I didn't know that.
No.
I watched him. You know hole 7, the famous hole at Pebble Beach?
Yeah.
So we were at Pebble Beach, and they had a wedding. So Pebble Beach was closed. I don't know who this wealthy person was. And they had the wedding on hole 7. Wow. And so we come walking up, and Larry's looking down right there, and he runs, takes off running, comes back. He's standing on the tee with a disc in his hand. And he turns around and he throws it and parks hole 6. And he's jumping up and down. I parked the hole at Pebble Beach. And I'm like, Larry, you're playing backwards. And I mean, it's not even a 75-yard walk. And all these people are having this wedding down there. And they're looking like, what is going on up there? And Larry's playing Pebble Beach.
It's so interesting. Like, what a beautiful example of how Larry would keep stories to himself, right? Here's, I've played ball golf with Larry. Maybe JJ and I and Walt, hundreds of rounds of ball golf. I've never heard that story.
Me and Alan, and it was me and Alan and Larry were at Pebble Beach. We went out.
Three of us that have played hundreds of rounds of ball golf had never heard of
He never told you all the story about how we played.
Never heard that.
I saw a picture of you guys at Pebble Beach, but
yeah,
never heard that.
Here we go. Thank you.
What's up about Alan Roberts, Chris?
Yeah, Alan Roberts, yeah.
All right, so I just thought of this a second ago, and I forgot all about this, but Alan sent me this email. His PDGA number is 7832, which is just a little above mine at 7477, but he wanted me to tell this story. He said, Larry's been one of my best friends for over 30 years. One story that sticks out were when we were playing Charlotte at one of the points bonanzas. I was playing with Larry on the lead card. Last round, shocker, Larry won, and I did play well with a good last round and ended up second at the awards ceremony. And the TD said, which was probably you, huh, Alan? And he said, the TD said, and shooting the best round, or the best last round and winning, Larry Leonard. He raised his fists in the air, and people were laughing. He said, I was standing there beside him, and I told him, I shot the best round last round. And he just smiled and winked. And he said, if you like the story word how, oh man, this is kind of jumbled now, right? I'm okay. Oh, he said word how you like it. But to me, like, I remember that look in his eye, like that happy look. And like, I could see him, like when I was reading that story about Alan, I was like, I could see that look. Yeah. And I don't know him near as well as you guys. I didn't know him near as well as you guys did, but I saw him plenty of times when, in a lot of my early days in USTGC and all that, and see him in practice rounds. And I could see, like, I knew what he was talking about when he said that. And, and that's like, I don't have near the memories you guys do, but that's one thing that I always remember. Like, he did have that look and that look in his eye, but also just that look on his face. Like, every time you saw him, he was happy to be there. And that's what I'm going to remember.
He would do the double fist in the air was his signature. It wasn't like this. It was more like spread out. I won. And I have several pictures, Columbia, Charlotte, well, everywhere, everywhere. He would throw his hands in the air like a Rocky Balboa, I won. And it never got old. I've got Winston-Salem. I've got all kinds of pictures. And that, for me, he's gone. You can't ask him another question. You can't relive those moments of, like, I'm sure Stan and Carl and Beebe all had Larry under under their wing and taught him and introduced him to these people that he knew. And when I started traveling with him, when he finally got rid of Carl and Stan that were taking him around, he got me to take him around. So, and it's great because, I mean, I look at how many times I've flown in my life, and the majority was with him to a tournament. Those are just things I don't get back. I remember the Worlds in '96 that we drove to, the '97 Worlds in Charlotte, and then all the other Worlds, and I got introduced to everybody in the Hall of Fame or future Hall of Famers. The Julianas and the Rick Vokes and the Greenwells, and that's Larry. If he wasn't in my life, I wouldn't have done these things. So for me, I don't get that back. And then outside of disc golf, we were probably better friends than most. We'd go to his house and we'd have lunch on his back porch. Boy, weather was coming in. We were quick to text. If this damn storm breaks up, and we need this rain, everyone was so irritated, But all new TV shows coming on. These are things that we did. And in the end, he cared about disc golf, but he didn't need to live it. He'd done that for 30 plus years of his life. He was happy that you were playing. And that's one thing Larry would always tell you. If you could better yourself or you can make yourself happy, then go do it. Just do it. Try it. If it doesn't work, then you go back to where you were. But just be happy. At least try it. So I'm going to miss the lunches, sitting on his back porch. I'm going to miss the weather talks. The garden. We had a little garden in his house. Those kinds of things. But don't get me wrong. I mean, Larry didn't want you touching his disc. He was a hoarder too. But his puzzles, his hand-eye coordination was phenomenal. Four-leaf clovers and shark's teeth, and gosh, arrowheads. I mean, he was an athlete. Like Carl said, if he was a few inches taller, man, he would probably be playing basketball. But there was a lot of things that Larry was outside of disc golf. But I'm gonna miss the friendship more than the disc golf aspect. I'm grateful, eternally grateful for everything he's ever done for me in disc golf. But friendship outside of that, is a little higher up on the list than disc golf itself. So
I remember this reminded me of something and we were all hanging out at JJ's house, and I don't know if it was your housewarming party, your birthday, or something. And JJ had this was your house in Creedmoor, this like screened in porch. Me and JJ and Larry and Walt are all sitting on the couch, and I had just won this tournament in Durham, the Big Valley Challenge in Open. And JJ's won it, Walt's won it, Larry's won it. And JJ's brother walks in.
Why'd you rub it in?
I know. I mean, some of us have won some tournaments, Chris.
Hey, it was only like one of 3 or 4. Come on.
That's
Chris.
true. Well, this is the point of it, is we're sitting on, and JJ's brother Chase walks in and tries to sit down. And I was like, Chase, this Big Valley Open champions only in here. And Larry says, "You ain't won that shit," right? And I pick the phone up, show it to him, and he's like, God damn, I need to start playing again if you're winning. You know?
That's the tournament he beat, came from behind and beat me.
Well, it's when you look at his PDGA record, the last tournament he ever played, he won. So he
And I
goes
ran
out a
that
winner.
tournament.
The Midtown Chiropractic Rally Disc Golf Championships, 2009.
Now that was when he passed. I looked that up. That was a tournament JJ and I started a long time ago, and still going on to this day. And that was Larry's last tournament. Of course, he won. And when I found that stat that I had run the last tournament that he ever played and won, it's like what an honor that I'll just what an honor. As a TD, I've done a lot of cool things, and that's up there, right? Just what an honor.
The first PDGA tournament I ever ran, Larry drove from Raleigh to Richmond and played
Solo?
in it and won. No, maybe he came with Walt. I don't know, but Larry won the first tournament I ever ran.
I don't know.
So.
Walt's probably going to argue that. I mean, if Larry drove.
Well, when we had the memorial, Stan came out of the woods, like Gandalf.
Yeah.
And
Sam told us that he was not coming and that he literally appeared in the woods.
So Stan shows up. I'm just shell shocked. But after a while, Stan and Carl got together and I'm watching and I'm going, gosh, this just came to me. This just came to me right now. And Carl can tell you, I walked up to him and I looked at Stan and I said, Stan, how many times have you ever been to a tournament with Larry? He's like, oh, man, too many to count. How many times did he drive? I don't think he ever drove.
He drove me
I looked at Carl and Carl said, son of a bitch, he never drove. And I went, yeah, he never, ever.
But
and so
he would drive
JJ down there is the only one that he ever drove.
This is a pretty esteemed panel, and we've narrowed it down to JJ as his only passenger.
Must have felt like his son.
Anytime we would go up north to play tournaments, he would drive from Raleigh to Richmond, and he'd say, I drove halfway, so I'd have to drive the rest. So,
Well, I'll tell probably my last story, but this is for me, we were in Burlington playing a tournament, and gosh, I felt like I was killing them. I felt like I was Cedar Rock and Wells Springs. I felt like I was just destroying Larry. And I had some family members there, and they were all watching. And they were the gallery, whatever. And if you know Wells Springs, I mean, it's full of rocks and stumps and sticks and whatever. It's not the greatest course, and you can get favorable kicks, and you can get the kick and roll away of death, and just happened to be that one day Larry had got all the bad kicks and I was getting all the good kicks. I'd gone into the last round with a 4-stroke lead. If you got 4 strokes, I mean, you're pretty damn happy against Larry. Oh, most people. Man, this dude put it on me. I mean, like straight put it on me. And I was like, I said, had family there. I was so nervous. Ended up going to the last hole, which is 18 there in the valley, and I missed my putt. Larry wins. I show my butt. I throw my stuff. I'm just livid that I gave up these 4 strokes. I was pissed. I was truly, truly pissed. I stormed off to the car. I think Christina grabbed all my shit. I was just like, I'm done. I'm so pissed. I get in the car. She throws the stuff in the car. She gets in the passenger seat, and I heard the other door open. And I'm like, shit, I drove this fucker. I drove him. He just come back and beat me, and now he's got to get in my car. Oh, my God. It's like, you got to be shitting me. So Larry's like, hey, man, he's in the back seat. He just won, and he does what Larry does. And he said, it sucks to lose. It sucks to lose. Dude, you're good. I had to come back and beat you. We're both really good. If we're at the tournaments, we're going to win. today just wasn't your day, but don't let that, define who you are. Don't let today, be the day that you give up. You're going to win some shit. I'm going to win. It's just today just wasn't your day, and he was right.
Some sage advice.
Yeah, it wasn't the ideal situation. You don't give up a 4-stroke lead, but
You should have made him walk.
I should have made him walk the hour and a half home. But it's just one of those situations where if that doesn't happen, then you don't have a story. I mean, you could say I beat Larry Land by 4 strokes, whatever, no big deal. But this just makes the better story, living legend. Bang bang, he makes the putts. You don't have that. You got Snoop in your name. You don't have bang bang and living legend. This is he made that name for himself. But more than that, he's just a damn good dude. I mean, that's really what I take away from it. He's just a damn good guy. So, and he's truly missed over here.
Yeah.
So.
The Frisbee family is a tight, interconnected web, and it's amazing when we're all get to vibrate together. But when one's gone, that's another voice that's lost for all time. And we can try to tell the stories, we can try to preserve the memories and keep it going forward. It's never the same, but it's all we have. And I think you guys really did a great job coming in here and telling us some great stories. I never really had the chance to play with or against them. Whenever I did play in North Carolina, I was the bottom of the huge, massive pro field, and he was at the very top. So he was just a name to me. So for me personally, this has just been an amazing journey, getting to know Larry and getting to know one of our fellow Frisbee friends and family members who's gone now. So anybody who would like to add one last thing before we wrap it up, Carlton?
Yeah, obviously we've all come together over Frisbee, which is a wonderful thing, and it's good to celebrate the community. That's one of the things I've always liked about Frisbee, the wonderful community. So yeah, I got a million Larry Goffin stories, but the thing to me that defines Larry is he was so curious. He had this eternal curiosity. He also had this joy about him. He was always having fun. Larry was the kind of guy that come up to you and say, "Carl, have you ever mule mouthed a Mountain Dew?" I'm not kidding you. Yeah. I'm like, Larry, maybe you need to get a job. You sit around all day asking. No, I've never. I don't even think I've, what do you call it, torpedoed a submarine. I haven't even done that with a field. Why would I do that with a Mountain Dew? So I just thought that was unusual, but it kind of sums Larry up. He was very introspective, quite a thinker. He'd also come up to with these puzzlers, these questions. I know Walt can remember them, and Chris too. So we meet at the course, Cedar Hills probably, and Larry says, "Carl, can you tell me the difference between hieroglyphics, pictographs, and petroglyphs?" And just so turned out I could, but that's the kind of thing that Larry would hit you with, just out of the blue. You hear that kind of, Fortunately, he wouldn't be talking like that during a tournament or a game.
Courtesy violation. Yeah.
One at home, I think, and if Jeff Humberg's listening, Jeff, if I get it wrong, just call me. I think hieroglyphics is actually like a language written on something. Pictographs is a picture instead of words. It's a picture depicting something. And of course, petroglyphs is a picture that's carved into the stone. So Larry would not like for me to leave you guys hanging. But don't the answer. But if you ever played with him, you have no doubt that he can hit 1,000 free throws in a row. One of the things that defines a legend is people tell stories about you that aren't maybe not true, but you can believe them because the person was so incredible. I mean, anybody that knows me knows I wouldn't force Larry out of the car at Pals.
But you might force him into the drive-through
While
still in the car.
The irony of this whole thing is that his favorite meal was a hot dog. That was his favorite meal. And that's what everybody got at Pals. So
just put ketchup on it? No, ketchup was spicy.
No, you didn't need ketchup.
Nothing.
Ketchup was spicy.
I don't think it was anything. Maybe a piece of cheese.
The one thing I learned the first round, at first tournament I ever played with Larry was don't pee while he's throwing.
Oh no, he hated that.
If you snuck off in the woods and you came back, he's like,
he'd wait. Yeah,
he's like,
You were peeing, weren't you? You were
he'd
peeing.
wait.
aren't you? I'm like, no.
Man, you couldn't go in your bag. You couldn't try to sneak something out of your bag. You couldn't unzip anything. He'd be livid. Why can't you wait 7 more seconds? Why can't you wait?
I played the Crosstown. It was when we were at Buckhorn. It was a national tour, and I shot like one of the rounds of my life. It was on the lead card the second round, and of course Larry's out there, and I'm one of these chalk obsessive players. So I'm sitting there. We ain't even teed off, and I'm chalking my hand. He's like, "You ain't gonna do that shit when I'm throwing, are you?" we ain't even done it yet. We ain't even called 2 minutes. He's already worried about it.
No, Robert, he was working you.
I mean, I shot 67 that next round, so.
Greenwell tells me something here at the U.S. Masters that he remembered about Larry and Pete May as well. He said they still take Larry's advice of only practice the putts that you're regularly going to be at the distance, so 25 feet, 30 feet. And Pete May even said, I'm 18 feet now. And I think about that all the time with Larry. Larry would tell me, get a comfortable distance, and that's what you stay at. The funny part of that is Scott Conway was there, and Scott Conway's like, well, that 25 is now 45. So these guys putt nowadays, 45 feet and make them 90%. But he's right. Yeah. So he's sticking. His what he's preaching is sticking. So.
Beav, it looks to me like you've been politely waiting your turn. Jump in there.
No, I can just wrap it up. I'm just so fortunate that I got to see Larry. It's been like 4 years. I was up with my mom's house. She was very sick, and I made time to go over to Larry's house. He lived with his parents. I was fortunate to go to those 2 houses. Quickly, I don't forgot who was with me. I want to say Stan, but at the new house that they lived in, he was upstairs. At the first one, he was downstairs.
Yeah.
But we went upstairs, and I think you might have been there, Walt. But he said, "Hey, come here, let me show you something." And we went over kind of in the corner. He said, "I got my own refrigerator." So that was that. But
He liked his drinks cold.
the best one was seeing him so happy at his house. And you mentioned the plants. He showed me his plants, and he showed me the house and outside. And, very nice. And he was just in a great state there, and in such a happy mood. And that's the way I'll always remember him.
And could he get super annoying about his love for the Blue Devils? Did he piss everybody off on this forum with his love for the Blue Devils?
He was pretty confident how good they were. I mean, he knew them, and his dad went to Duke, and so he could tell you every stat from every year, every player ever at Duke.
Him and his dad, they had season tickets to basketball for what? It was 20, 30 years.
Good seats, like right in the center court behind the Cameron Crazies. Like you couldn't buy them if you wanted to, kind of seats.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember because, Larry just randomly called. This was when his dad was sick. His dad still had those tickets. And he just randomly calls me and was like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he says, "Man, I got 2 tickets to the Duke game." And I said, "Larry,
And I need a ride.
No, but he was just like, wow. I was like, why would I want to go to this game? And he was just like, well, I just know you're a big sports fan, and I just thought you'd appreciate the experience. That just kind of shows the guy he was. And then I had torn my MCL that summer, and he goes, well, our seats are kind of up against a bar, so I don't know if your knee is going to like that. And I can't tell you how much I've told my dad how much I hate these seats because of this bar. Larry, you're in the 5th row at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Like,
9,000 seats.
yeah,
That's all there is.
But it just shows the generosity and the thoughtfulness that just out of the blue. Oh man, Robert's a sports fan. Robert would probably love this.
He was a big Coach K guy. He was big on Coach K. Everything Coach K did, USA basketball with the charities. He was really happy that Coach K, that they had a coach that really cared too about the kids and the community. But there's just little things you don't think that Larry's going to come out of Larry's mouth, but it did. But
it didn't bother me at all to see NC spoil their last home game against them. I'm a Kansas fan, so I was like, "Oh, sorry, Coach K," but I mean, he is legendary, and I you can't take anything away from him. But
well, he said
I wouldn't touch it.
I told him that Hansbrough was 4-0 at Cameron, and he didn't believe it. He was in denial. He just couldn't believe that Tyler Hansbrough had never lost it at Cameron Indoor. And I said, I'll show it to you. He goes, you don't need to show it to me. So he knew. but he was a sportsaholic. He's probably got 10,000 baseball cards still in his room. That might be worth $1 a piece or nothing, but he still has them. So big time sports guy. So.
Well, certainly a dear spirit. We're going to miss him. And, this is a great way to come together and kind of fill a little circle of love for him and with him. So thank you, guys. Thank you for being here, participating in all this. Thanks for sharing your stories so openly, the photographs, the T-shirts. Big salute out to all you guys. And
calls wearing backwards.
And I feel confident that I can speak for Paul when I say that this was a great honor. Thanks a lot for. Yeah. I know Chris, you and Amy suggested that we do this, and whenever Walt sent me the message and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" Like I said, I was talking to Carl a little bit, and then Carl just started spilling story after story after story, and what I mean. Obviously, he's a legend in our scene and in our circle, and so thank you guys for thinking of us and having us be the conduit for this. And this will be on our YouTube page, and it'll be on our page at maceman.com as well until neither one of those exist. And that's so it's the watchers today aren't overwhelming, but this will be something that can be reviewed and the word can be spread about this and lots of people can see it. So you guys really did a great job of paying tribute to your fallen brother and to our fallen.
Well, thanks for having us for sure, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. We appreciate all your efforts and your kindness as well. Larry was the man, and he will always be remembered that way.
Nice.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right. We'll see you
Appreciate
again
it.
down the road, hopefully.
See you all.
Thanks again, guys. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Go, Larry.
Nice. Thanks,
Look
Pete.
forward to seeing each one of you, hopefully in the not too distant future.
Hey, are you
Go
coming back
Hurricanes.
to go fishing? Are you coming back this way going fishing?
Not this year, but I'll be in Rock Hill in less than a week.
Yeah, but nobody's going to Rock Hill except for you.
I'll have some lunch.
Hey, bring your ass, man. Z, let's
No,
go.
I
Come on.
want. Look, believe me, I
I'll be-
want to, but it's not in the cards this year. But let's get to look, Paul. I want to fucking see your ass too, dude.
I know it's been way too long.
It's been
buddy.
way too long, man. Like Chris, I just saw recently, but I want to see him do. And you know what? The thing is, I want to beat Chris in disc golf. So I think if he keeps getting older, I might be able to beat him. So
Well, I'm at least gonna see B.
You're living the dream.
in about 10 days.
oh, Chris, I'm way younger than you. I'm like 19.
Yeah, no.
No,
I'm 61 and a half.
Are you in Toronto these days, Paul?
Yep. Still in Toronto. Yeah.
Do you get to the U.S. much these days? Are you doing anything travel or?
Not much. In fact, last year at USDGC was the first time in I think 15 years that I'd been down.
So
the
if you're
States.
going to USDGC, I might make it, Brian.
Okay. I'm not
Should've
going this
told
year,
you
but
last year.
Let's try to make a plan for next year.
Yeah, make a plan for
so
next year.
I would love to get together with you guys, even if it's not USDGC. Let's fucking pull something together. I mean, I'm when I go to see my mom, I'm in Ithaca, Watkins Glen, New York area, not terribly far. I mean, it's not like around the corner from Toronto, but it's not terribly far either. So
It's a lot less corners than it is from Raleigh.
correct,
sure.
correct. And I'd love to catch up.
Yeah, man, definitely. I miss
Thanks,
you,
guys.
buddy.
Have a great
This
night.
was great. Thanks.
Love you
See
guys.
ya.
Appreciate it.
Mace,
Love you,
Mace,
buddy.
I'll see you in Rock Hill, and I'll have some Carl Howard stories for you.
All right, man. That'll be great.
Those are the dangerous stories right there.
Those are some dangerous stories.
I won't tell mine.
Yeah.
Later.
Thanks a lot, fellas. It's great to see everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Beeve.
Thanks, guys. Bye
All
bye.
right, here we go.